Alrighty, everybody. Welcome to the long-awaited video. Well, at least for the people in the Discord. This is going to be the last video for a little bit. We're not going nowhere. The channel's not going nowhere. We're still going to be here. But I've got a lot of stuff to do. I got a website to develop and get up. I'm talking about my tutorial site and lab site. I got that to do. I got to set up the labs. I got to set up cloud hosting and everything for the students to do all the labs and everything. There's going to be two price tours. Well, I'll come up with a price for the video tutorial section. The video tutorial section, which is just going to be video tutorials, they're going to be a little better than these, because people are going to be paying for one. So I will have graphics, motion graphics and stuff, and I'll point out things, and we'll have diagrams and stuff, so you guys can get a bit better, visual representation of it. I know you won't learn as much, because all the animations and stuff are going to be distracting, and you're going to be wowed by that. And not like I said, I've talked about this before in another video, but I can't help that. The graphics have got, the video presentations and stuff have got to look good because this is a professional thing, not just me ranting on YouTube like this channel is. So all of that to be taken care of, and the labs will be broken up. There's going to be beginner sections in there, because all the beginners have got to practice, what they're learning and teaching and everything. And it'll be like Hack the Box or Try Hack Me. You'll log in, you'll have to log into a container or, a Docker or whatever, or the network. I'm going to be setting up networks, and I'm going to be working with full blown networks here, with routers, switches, and I'm going to mimic large corporations, a large corporate network and everything, and you guys have to navigate through it. We're going to get into BGP routers we'll be talking about here in this, and a little bit of stuff of what I'm going to be talking about in this video. And this is for advanced people, because I will be doing this for advanced, because like I said, I've been doing this for 28 years. I want to help the beginners out 90%, of the time, because I want to get more people. I want to get brand new people into the security industry because it's shorthanded with qualified people. But I do want to offer advanced topics and advanced coverage, more in-depth coverage and stuff, and into what I'll be talking about here for one, but a bunch of other stuff too that will help people out in the industry. And those will be a little more expensive, probably a lot more expensive as far as you're concerned, but the people taking this course won't be paying for it themselves, more than likely. That's going to be on a whole different level, because more than likely the company that they work for will be paying for it. And it won't be one person, more than likely. They'll probably be sending over anywhere from 3 to 8 people, because these are going to be, multinational corporations and stuff, and they've got different business office locations, maybe 2 or 3 here in the States, 2 or 3 or 4 overseas, in different countries and stuff and everything, because they're multinational. Each region will have its own network admin, and everything like that. And so, they might send a few people over to go through the course and everything. And so that's separate from you beginners. It's open for you guys though. If you get there, if you get to that point, if you go through your beginner and your intermediate studies and you get to your advanced and you want to go that route. Like I said, this particular route, I'll have my hacking, red team and blue team sections for the advanced people. But this particular route will be people for going for their CCNA, CCNP, and CCIE certifications, because that's why this is what this is going to tell. This is networking and sub-networking. And we're going to get into CIDRs and all that stuff. But a specific area, as far as this is concerned, is what we're going to be getting into here. But what do I have open here? Well, as you can tell, I got the UN Security Council, and this is where I'm going to start my talk on this particular subject, because I read a lot of news, as we'll get into here in a minute. And when I come across things like this, it's interesting to me, and sometimes it gives me a pathway to go down to research and dig more into. But let me read this here to you. Skim over it, basically, kind of. The UN Security Council had a meeting recently on April 4th, 2024, organized by the Republic of Korea, ROK, and Japan and the United States. The session focused on evolving cyber threat landscape and its implications for the maintenance of international peace and security. Now, the next part here, the informal meeting included intervention from 30 delegates, preceded by technical briefings from Deputy of High Representative of Disarmament Affairs, Director of UN Institute of Armament Research, and Director of Intelligence Solutions for Investigative and Special Programs. Now, I didn't mention the companies or the positions or the people's name because these change. As time goes on, these people leave these offices or get voted out or whatever the case, and other people get appointed to them. I mentioned the special investigations, which is chain analysis, which is blockchain, and right now, cryptocurrency is a big thing. It's involved. It's majorly involved in the deep web and dark web. As major currency payment, and everything. And so, yeah, it's got its place in cybersecurity. So that's why they're on here. But more importantly, this is going to get into politics and stuff like that, which we're going to get into a little bit of geography here. But well, next after this. But this opens up the thing for it. It says at the top paragraph, it says organized by the Republic of Korea and co-hosted by Japan and the United States. And then in the next paragraph, it casually mentions 30 delegates also joining and everything. Well, first of all, why is Republic of Korea and Japan including into this organized by part? If you look at this whole paper right here, there's only one major world power that is listed here as as part of organizing this, and that's the United States. Where's Israel? The United States and Israel have a really strong alliance in technology and cybersecurity. It was that, after all, it was the United States and Israel that made Stuxnet and attacked Iran's nuclear centrifuges. So how come they're not included in this organization? After all, this is the UN. But after you read this with an open mind, you begin to think that the United States put this meeting on, and the UN was invited to it also. But no, this is listed, as a UN Security Council meeting, and and I don't know why. They attended, but it looks like the United States is running everything, with everybody else's casual mentions, and we'll get into that in a minute too. But who are these other 30 people? Because I want to know. Like I told you guys, information is very, very valuable. Now, I don't give answers, and this is why. I'm an independent security researcher. Emphasize the word independent there. I don't have a clock that I punch into and punch out every day and get a check at the end of the week. I have to do a shitload of research that could take months and sometimes years, and I don't get paid for it. When I get paid? I get paid when someone wants my opinion or my consulting or my advice, whatever label you want to put on it. But basically, they want my information. They want my analysis and my opinions on everything that I've been researching. They're like, look, this is your area of specialty. This is what you specialize in and everything. And we want your opinion on some things. Well, those are answers. And research, just cost time. And I've said it many times before, time is money. Time's more valuable than money because we don't have an infinite amount. Every second that goes by means we're closer, to death. We don't get it back. It's gone. So, yeah, my time is extremely valuable. So if the time that I spend on doing something, this is not a hobby for me. So yeah, at some point, it's got to have a payoff to it. You never know if you're going to get that payoff or not. But this is why you got to you got to pick particular things that you can see that could be valuable in the future. Maybe not right now, but if this is my special, this is if I spend enough time doing this and I get familiar with it and everything, more time than let's say someone else could put into it, they might want my advice on it. or indirectly, my advice on what I'm studying might come up into the discussion. And, they won't know that I charge them for this particularly, but it will be on the bill, as a subcategory, an extra charge on it, because there'll be, multiple things that I charge for on there. And, this will be listed under research. They don't need to know what particular research, like I said, but, all they just need to pay the bill. That's all. This is one of the things that lead me down a particular path. When I read something like this and I go, I'm like, as with every news article, there's always information left out. Everybody's always hiding stuff. What is it? Well, we get down here, we got evolving threats and everything. And I'm going to just pick up here that, I despise this. There were also expressions of concern about the use of these tools by cyber criminals, and a few delegates registered alarms over cyber terrorism, artificial intelligence, which I do get into. You see, I got Chat GPT open up here. I, try to break Chat GPT. I try to hack it and get it to tell me stuff it's not supposed to tell me, and a bunch of other. Again, that's a different topic. That's a topic for another day, maybe in the course on the website. There were also on the minds of several states, raised as an issue as by the U.S., Slovenia, Qatar, Italy, Sierra Leone, and Ecuador. Again, we have the U.S., a major player here, but what the hell? Why is Slovenia, Qatar, Italy, Sierra Leone, really, and Ecuador in here? Where's any other major player? Like, again, Israel. How come they're not listed in here? Well, now, obviously, we know why Russia and China isn't listed here. So don't be obvious and don't bring up the obvious, okay? Assume that people, anyone listening to this has got common sense, okay? So it's not a mystery why Russia and China wouldn't be listed here. Again, the U.S. is only the major thing here. There's other countries that should be listed here that would be interested in all this tech, the cyber terrorism, the artificial intelligence and stuff, instead of these particular ones. It's kind of like, why does North Korea always keep coming up when they want to blame someone for malware or ransomware? Technically it's BS in my opinion. North Korea doesn't have that experience. They don't have that capability and knowledge and stuff. We're acting like North Korea is Russia as far as hacker mentality and hacker experience and stuff goes. No, they're not there. So, yeah, this the most of society believes it, and that's all the government cares about. The ones that do. There's enough people believing it, and that works for the government. These are the things, and that this here I want to point out in this article. The space between low intensity, financial motivated cyber criminals and disruptive, large scale cyber attacks has grown narrow, leaving behind a gray area whereby capabilities and tools are combined to achieve destabilizing impacts both on conflict and peacetime, or both in conflict and peacetime. But what I want to focus on here is that quoted gray area. Again, we get into this elusive gray area. And this is where cybersecurity lives, in my opinion, because this gray area is very elastic. Let's say you got an upside down pizza. You're holding a slice of pizza where the point is down toward the point of it, the tip of it, is down at the bottom of the ground. Or think of it as an upside down pyramid, if you will, but same thing. On the right side, we have bad hackers, illegal hackers. On the left side, we have the good hackers, the white hats, the ethical hackers, and everything in between, which is the majority, which is, makes up the pizza, is the gray area. Now, consider the whole pizza, the whole slice, as the gray area. So right now we've got no bad or good side because the whole pizza is a gray area. Is that what we're in? Is this where we're at in cybersecurity right now? to where there is no really good or bad. Everything is just gray. Well, no. The ethical people are ethical. They literally will not do anything bad. So if you want to, pull them into the category, well, then that's where, because anytime one of the outside ones move, the other side, it's a mirror. The other side moves automatically also. So basically, the good side and the bad side are controlled not necessarily by their beliefs and morals or anything. It's controlled by this gray area. If this gray area shrinks, then the good and the bad side increases. More good people come in and more bad people come in. And that's where we're at. Is this gray area, really, really thin in the middle? Or is it getting bigger, bigger and bigger and bigger, pushing the good and the bad side out to where basically the whole world's in chaos and everything is just gray? Um, I just wanted to point that out and let you guys go down that rabbit hole as you're studying security, reading, researching on it, and everything. Keep what I just said in mind about this gray area. Is the bad side expanding without the good side expanding? In other words, if the bad side is expanding, that means the gray area is also shrinking, but it's only shrinking on one side. The bad side is pushing it toward the middle, but the gray area is still keeping the white area trapped because it's not moving yet, because the ethical side is not expanding. And this is where we get into our lack of qualified people in security. Ethical side, or the white side, is not expanding. It doesn't matter how quickly the bad side's expanding. But the point is, this gray area is shrinking and getting smaller, and the people that are taking over the gray area are the bad people because there's no progress on the good side. So therein lies one big problem and one of the many problems in cybersecurity. The people, the qualified people involved. It's not helping the ethical side at all. But with that, we'll move on here. That's not all I wanted to get out of this UN report. And like I said, I follow politics, I follow finance, I follow economics and stuff of all countries all over the world. Some of them lesser than others. No, some of them I only put a few hours into because there's really not nothing going on with them, and I just want to check up on them. That's all. But I need to know because you never know when things might change in a country or something, and everything. I want to be up on that. I also want to follow the bad people out there too, because this is where my expertise lies. If they're doing something or something new coming out or whatever they're doing or anything, I want to look into it. And to do that, I got to be up on a lot of things, in geography and politics and all that stuff is part of it. Now, this is going to reason I bring this up is because I'm using this to jump into the global internet. This is a very picture a pyramid again, if you will. This is the top of the pyramid. The air up here is very thin. There's not a lot of people in this space. That's because it is extremely advanced. And the only people that are up here are hacktivists like Anonymous, and foreign nation states, APTs, advanced persistent threats, like Russia, China, you know, North Korea, kind of a little bit, but not much, but with the help of Russia. But other than that, not them by themselves. But I'm going to bring this up because this pertains to something. I told you I read up and everything on all over the world, because right now cyber crime is becoming a weapon in militaries in countries around the world because it's a way for them to attack anywhere in the world without physically being there. They don't got to bring in tanks and ships and planes, and you know that's a lot of resources. That's a lot of money, and not every country has that avenue to go down. But security, that's a little different. We can hack with just a computer and an internet access, basically. Right now, there's some stuff, political stuff, mind you, but I'm bringing up a scenario here on why I'm interested in this. This is one of the areas that I'm interested in my research, along with many others, but this is what I'm getting to in this video. But Eastern Africa, which is Ethiopia, Somalia, Kenya, and Dominican Republic of Congo, DRC, they call it. They've got some disputes going on right now, border, disputes and this and that and the other. And there's also southwestern Africa, which is Angola and South Africa. I've also got something going on between them. I could also throw in, northwestern Africa, which is Nigeria and Ghana, but that's getting into a different area. Not really what I want to talk about, now, because all these things, all these areas have got things going on. It could be sex trafficking, sex extortion, could be kidnapping, so like they all got their own little thing that are going on, other than politics and border disputes and stuff like that. But let's say a country like Ethiopia, which doesn't have a lot of resources. I'm going to bring this up as an example to get into business and finance here. Countries have got to support themselves. Now, I'm not going to get into gross domestic product, GDP and all that stuff, but they got to support themselves. And I mentioned this before about sources of money. What are the sources of money? Taxes, central banks, or taxes, fees, all that stuff and everything. Charity donations, to foundations, grants, and charities and stuff like that. I won't get in. That's a whole other area. You say, well, how can that be a money source? Well, again, we're getting into finance and billionaires and stuff like that. But that's one source. I classify all of that under taxes, basically, and central banks. And there's another one I'm not going to get into right now because that's going to take me the third one. That's going to take me down another digression. That's actually another video, basically. But you have these three sources of support. Well, you know what I can do? I'm going to pull one. I'm going to pull one out of there. Resources. Every country has resources. Whether it's gold, silver, whatever it is, in the ground and stuff. And other countries might want to take advantage of your resources that you can't take advantage of. And China's big. China's well known for that. And in Africa too. They are contributing and they are investing a lot of money in Africa. And it's literally only for the resources that some of these countries have and nothing else. So we got our 3-point pyramid. We got taxes, we got central banks, and we got materials. Now, obviously, not every country has a central bank. So for the majority of the country, that's automatically out of it. That's one area that you automatically just, that hurts you, because you don't have that resource. And not a lot of them have taxes. Ethiopia, what kind of taxes can they get? Other than forced taxes, like Syria, but we won't go into that either. That's a different part of the country and a different problem. But this boils down to Meatloaf's song. 2 out of 3 ain't bad. If you want to compete in the world and not be a third world country, basically, you need 2 out of these 3 to be able to compete. You can afford to not have one. And we already determined that the majority of the world isn't going to have a central bank. So you either got to have taxes or you got to have resources in your country that are valuable. If you don't have either one of those, which a lot of countries in Africa don't have any of these 3, they're basically a desert. So yeah, you don't really have a lot of potential there. You don't. I say you need a bargaining chip. Well, you really don't have any bargaining chips. But you know, like I said, if you don't have two of the three, well, your country's kind of hurting. You know, yes, you might probably it might be the resources that your country has, and that's all you got, and that puts you in a bad spot. Basically, you're going to be used like a hooker on the street because you got no way to defend yourself. You got if you have any military at all, it's a measly military because who's going to pay for it? You don't have taxes or anything. You can't support a military. So you're going to have bandits and renegades. Mad Max type thing. Every man for himself, basically. But again, let's say getting back to my point here. Let's say Ethiopia says, well, you know what? We do. The government has money. In all of these countries. No matter how badly it looks like they're hurting, the people that run those countries, even if it's a terrorist group, they got money and they can afford to pay someone else to do the hacking for them that they want to do, to earn some money. One of these avenues that they could pay is a foreign nation. Now, you got to follow me here. This is going to get a little bit into some of the work that I've done in my intelligence area because remember, my specialty was attributing malware to hacker groups. Well, when I attribute a malware to someone, if I want to be worth my, opinion, I want to make sure that I attribute it to the right source and I don't just generalize it. Oh, this is from Russia. Well, okay, Russia's a big country. Can I narrow it? Can I narrow it down? This is my question to me. You know, I need to make my information more valuable than that. Can I narrow it down further than that? And you keep going and keep going further and further and further until you get to where you can't go no further. And you're like, well, okay, well, this must be it. This must be who's behind it. Now, back to the example. Let's say Ethiopia decides to hire out. There's a lot of avenues they can take. Again, this is getting into politics. Who are we friends with? Who are we not friends with? Because obviously we can't ask them. They're not going to help us and everything. And who can we trust and who can we not trust? Well, we probably can't trust a lot of people, but we do have our connections that we can trust. And wonder if one of your connections, now again, I'm not going to mention this either, but Ethiopia does have one. As deprived as a company they are, they do have a very popular foreign nation, an APT, that will do hacking for them. And it's been known to do hacking for them in the past. Again, that's one of the things that I can't get into NDA on what that was. But so they pay this uh, foreign nation to do this for them, and the foreign nation does it. And guess what? Let's say that word gets out to the media and everything. Well, obviously, the media is going to know that this foreign nation, this APT did this hack, and blah blah blah, like kind of Korea when we hear Korea being blamed for the hack on Sony again, which is BS. But Korea gets blamed for it and everything, but it's the same thing. This foreign nation gets blamed for this kind of hack, and it's all on them. And no one really looks any further into it. When in actuality, they did it just because they were paid to do it. It has nothing to do with their country, at all. It's not benefiting them or anything. It's just a resource. It was an income channel. They got some money for this hack. They knew they could do it. It would be quick and everything, and they got paid pretty good for it. But no one knows that. So Ethiopia is, still looking like Ethiopia. Like nothing's happening over there, and goes unnoticed. And that's just the Ethiopia example. This is happening all over the world. There's not a lot of foreign nation uh, hacking groups out there, and they're going to take advantage. Yeah, they're going to hack. Majority of their hacking is for their country, but they're also going to outsource some of it because, again, resources. They might not have a lot of resources, these nations, or some of them, don't have a lot of resources. But this is an avenue. Russia is one of them. A lot of most of Russia is frozen. You know, so you think they're just Russia's hackers, their APT group and everything. It's just going to hack for the government, to do that. Well, no. Um, they can also outsource services to other places. Anyone that wants to hire them, basically, um, to do service too. And this is like I said, this is all done behind channels and stuff, because no one needs to know this and stuff, which means mostly on the dark web and deep web. There's no yen, there's no dollar, there's no pound, exchange. Everything's done in cryptocurrency. And yes, again, don't state the obvious. We all know cryptocurrency is traceable, but not to people that know it better than other people. So, there's people that specialize in cryptocurrency. And like that UN meeting, we saw that, there was a company there that was specialized in cryptocurrency, if you remember it right. And I said that could change, when including when they, include that all the different positions and stuff and everything, which was Chain Analysis. That's the company that does specialize in crypt and blockchain and stuff like that. But like I said, next year or in 2 years, maybe there might be a different company in that position. So that's why I don't mention the names and stuff of people that are there, because these positions change, as time goes on. But the title will still be there, unless someone decides to change that for some reason. Who knows? But anyway, that covers that part. That's all I want to say on that. Like I said, each one of these sections that I'm talking about could be a video, a 2-hour video in themselves. So I'm just doing like I said, not even a 30,000 view here. I'm doing like a 100,000 foot view. So yeah, this is like kind of quickly touching on areas, in my own way. To me, 30 minutes is quickly, as far as my videos go. So let's move on to our next subject that we want to get into as far as this goes. Now you see, we got my tabs up here and everything. Right here, let's say we've already over here in the UN, we've read about, who's at this meeting and who's not at this meeting. But let's say you wanted to research. Okay, well, we're talking about foreign nations here, so who's actually in charge of foreign nations? So you go over to Google, a beginner like yourselves that should be doing this. If you're, like I said, if you want to go down this path as an independent researcher, um, you go over to Google, and this is where you start out. This is not where you're going to, this is the beginning of your research. It's very broad. So generalization is the key here. You just want you want a direction to go. So not using any dorks or anything, you just literally type the question in Google and see where that takes you. So you go up there and you type it, who researches foreign nation cyber threats? And look at what we get here. Tell me this ain't biased. Do we get any news outlets, here, asking it? No. We get intel.gov, which is intelligence.gov, their annual threat assessment of the U.S. intelligence. We get U.S. Senate Committee on Arms Service, again by the government. The title, Foreign Cyber Threats to the United States. Okay, we got Georgetown Law Research Guides, International and Foreign Cyberspace Law Research. I mean, I'm just going down the list here, people. National Science Foundation. That's an interesting uh, government organization to look into. Just a casual mention for you guys. Do some rabbit hole going down on the NSF. See where that takes you. National Archives is listed here also. The Obama White House.archives.gov, the Comprehensive National Cybersecurity Initiative. So you see the point here. You see the going overall theme. All of this is government. Well, how come no one else has an opinion? What, you want me to go on, 2 or 3 or 5 pages down into the Google researches before I actually get to an independent source that has talked about this, or are any independent sources even talking about it at all? Because you have a libs sealed initiative on this topic, and you're like, look, you guys don't need to talk about this too much. We'll cover it in the media. We'll post it on our websites and stuff. And if people wants to know about it and everything, they can come to our websites and read up on it. Because we want to see who's researching this stuff. And if they come to our servers, then we have that. We know what they searched on in Google, and we know what they're doing on our website, how long they stay on it, and how long they spend researching it, so we can see just how big of a issue it is to them. How much time are they investing into researching this? And again, you can see I have no, I've not clicked on any of these links. If I clicked on one of these links, it would be purple, and that's why I don't click on their links. And again, this is one of the reasons why they don't know what I do, because I don't fall into their trap. I'm not going to go to their servers on research. Um, yes, my Google researching is hidden. It's from my computer, true, but I go through a VPN, and where it goes after that, it won't, not to my research, but where it goes after that, no one needs to know. But yeah, again, watch the net. I'm a few hops away from when I actually, from the computer, I should say, it actually goes out online and does the research that I'm researching on in Google here. But again, you guys will learn about that, especially if you get into sock puppets. If you get into OS Intel or OSINT, you're going to have to make some sock puppets. More, you want to have about 15 or 20 to start with. Um, and all that is fake IDs, guys. That's all a sock puppet is. And when you're doing OSINT, you don't want to do OSINT under your own real name, address, and phone numbers and all that stuff. You want to sign up for sites, you want to fill out the forms, you want to do all that stuff. You want to do all of that with a fake freaking account, okay? Get some common sense here. Fake email, everything. Fake email, fake credit card, fake everything. How do you do that? I'm not going to show you that on YouTube. I will have it in my course though, but not here. But yeah, so they want to track you, if you're searching this particular topic and everything, because they want to know who's interested in this other than them, or another country. They expect other countries to be looking into this too and everything, but they just want to keep tabs on who's getting into this. And this is what we're going to get into now on why this is secret. Because now you might be asking, what are you guys looking at? Well, let's go down. Let's break down here. I'm looking at the RIR, or the Regional Internet Registry. Um, you guys probably should go to this and read all of this and learn up on it. I already know each one of these five RIRs and what countries they'd cover and everything. What I want to get into here, another rabbit hole for you guys to get into, that pertains to what I'm doing here, and I might bring up my geography that I talked about Ethiopia and stuff. Um, let's say I wanted to go to one of the, or let's just say a country instead of singling someone out. Let's say I wanted to go to a country and read some of their papers. Now, normally I just use my VPN and go, pick a location in that country, and I go to it. And it looks like I'm, at least in South Africa. My IP is in South Africa, and everything, and that's good enough for me. Sometimes though, I'm researching a forum board, or I'm maybe on the dark web, you know, and these are a little more advanced people, here, and I want to take more precautions in my research, because look, the dark web knows about researchers. They know, they got people like me, an independent researcher. They've got actual researchers, they're working for companies, security companies, and everything. They've got research teams too that do research on the dark web, and they go on the dark web and do it. So this is not nothing new to the people doing business on the dark web or deep web, and they know it. So they're always trying to find out who you are, and they're going to use your IP. They don't know who you literally are, but the only thing they have is your IP, and they know that you can hide it. They know you got VPN probably, so there's no way that they look at your IP and say, "Oh, this is you." No, they know. Okay, more than likely, this is if it is the actual person's home address, well, he's just going to hate life because we're going to dox him and troll him, and we're going to bug him and harass, and everything, and more than likely, they're like, okay, this is a researcher, so he's using a VPN and who knows what else to hide himself, but maybe we can track him down. Let's see how advanced this person is and how well uh, his OSEC is and how well he's protecting himself. This is where RIRs and ASes come in. ASes, autonomous systems. This is where ASes and RIRs come in because speaking of Africa, whether it's Ethiopia or whatever, South Africa or whatever, the Congo or whatever, they've got their own RIR that covers Africa and a couple other places, but mainly they have their own. And if you go back, if you read the RIR registry here, I won't say go back, but again, this is only if you guys research this and get into it, but you can tell right here you know, the African Network Information Center. Now, I have these memorized because if you guys got to look at patterns. Look at all of these. For the most part, other than RIPE, you can see an Aaron, which is the American Registry Internet for Numbers. But other than that, you can see that NIC ends all of them. The Latin America ends with NIC. The African ends with NIC. you know, the Asian and obviously the AP is Asian Pacific Network Information Center. So on all of them, you can already shorten it by you just know that the NIC means Network Information Center. So all you gotta memorize is the first parts of it. The local registry for the AR, the Asian Pacific for the AP, and the Latin American and Caribbean for the ALAC or LAC. And RIPE, I mean, come on, if you spend any time researching on the internet and everything, you know that usually you're going to see RIPE with Russia, but yeah, it also covers Amsterdam, Netherlands, Central and West Asia and Europe, but in cybersecurity circles and everything, mostly, well, at least I do. I don't know about other researchers, but I know who they cover, but I basically, in my mind, I associate it with Russia because most all of my roads lead to Russia for, I would say, 60 to 70% of my research. So yeah, when I see RIPE, I just automatically think of Russia. And if it's different, oh well. It's one of the 6 out of 10 times that I was wrong. I can live with those odds. But what I want to get into here is this. Now, this might resemble one of my obsidian graphs, for those of you that, you I've shown my obsidian graphs on a video before, but no, this is not it. This is a little more advanced than that. Well, actually, I should say a little more jumbled than that. But actuality, it's not. But, this is going to take you, some time to understand this. But, we can see we got this graph. You guys don't know how it's actually made, but we got this down here, this representation and everything. And all these, now, I've already done this once with this IP address right here, 207.205.230.105. But most people might open this and look at it and say, oh, that's cool. That's interesting. I don't understand it, but it's cool. And yeah, okay, this is highlighting this little black web down here, the circle group. It's not as big as these 4 up here, but yeah, it's highlighting that so I can see. It's showing us, what each one of these can be made of, and just webbing off from there. But it's these patterns that each one of these are making, and the central. If you see my mouse, I'm moving around here. The central area of the black part of these areas, and obviously the smaller these are, the less significant they are. And, you know, if you just stand here and stare at it for a little bit and look around, interesting things start popping out. I've already showed you that I picked out that 207 address out of this and everything, and search it. But once you've done that and you're like, okay, that's cool. But then you like looking up here, you're like, you know what? I've already looked at, a few of these and I'm not interested in that no more. But I am interested in some things up here. First of all, let's take the RIRs. There's 5 of them that we know. And we see 4 big groups right here. These 2 right here that are together, and this one over here that's on the west side, and this one over here that's on the east side. But where's the 5th one? Interesting, huh? And why is the 5th one, not in this little line right here? If you was to draw a diagonal line, these 4 line up perfectly. But where the 5th one should be, like where this is, right, conglomerate right here is that the 5th one? And why is it so messed up? Why it's not really a circle like these other ones are? It's like pulled in all kinds of directions, like it's Play-Doh, and a kid is pulling it in different directions. It's all stretched out. Why is that? And you're like, well, okay, wait a minute. Maybe that's not the 5th one. Look up here at the top where this blue is. It's not even black, it's blue. And like, down here at the bottom left corner, we got red. You know, again, we're not, you can see the colors, that we're not going to get into the colors again. You guys, that's a rabbit hole you guys can go down if you want to, break these all out in colors. But look how different this is actually different than all 4 of these. A different pattern, and this pattern, they're close together, but why is this pattern and this pattern? Why is it so different? What is it about all of this right here that is making 2 very distinct patterns? What does this lead to? Why, this up here, what does this lead to? Again, this is research, guys. This graph doesn't, it poses a lot of questions, but how do you get answers out of this? Remember, answers is what I get paid for, not questions. I need to get answers, well, first of all, I need to find something to research that's valuable, and I don't know if there's anything valuable. Is this graph valuable to someone that might interpret it like I'm going to, I would interpret it and be able to extract information out of it that I shouldn't have been able to extract because people thought that no one would really spend time on this. Is this one of the things that I can warn, someone about wants to pay me for my opinion? And I'm like, it could be, it could say, I'm like, this might lead to a 0-day, you could say. And someone asked me, well, how did you find this? Well, actually, Wikipedia helped out. They put this graph up here, and yeah, I'm not 1%er. I'm not 1% of that 1%, so to speak. That just wasn't happy with just looking at it and saying it's cool and awesome, and then clicking the X and going. I'm, that 1% of 1% that looked at it, and had some knowledge, knew the internet and knew things and everything, and started looking at it more in depth, like trying to, asking myself questions, many questions. If you watch the Riddler, oh, questions, 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 so many questions. He went crazy. He went mad by questions. Too many questions, and he didn't have answers. But yeah, this is some of the things. Is this one, look right here. Is this one little perfect circle the 5th one? Well, why is it way out over here with not a lot around it? Could this be Africa? Because there's not a lot of people in Africa that got internet connection. So does that make sense that this is it? Well, okay, if that's Africa, then what the hell? Still, in the center of the graph right here, what is this messed up, mangled area? So I'll leave this to you guys. Uh, I'm, out of 1,000 people that watch this video, if it reaches that, I will be absolutely shocked if even one person decides to try to figure this out and go down this path. And that's why this graph is here, because other than me, there's no one else that's going to find use in this. But what does it lead to? Well, I did research this 207, 205, 230, 105, and it led to this. More importantly, this. It's just a that's the graph of this, but I'll get to that in a minute. This is what it led to. Now, how many of you even understand this? Well, it's just some basic information. Again, it's research. Um, and again, how does this information work? I tell you guys that I don't give you answers to your questions because you guys have questions and it's up to you to find the answers. And as an independent researcher, I'm going to explain this to you the best I can about me getting paid. It's my answers that are valuable. Now, you might say, well, he doesn't give answers because he doesn't know, you know, and that's okay. You're not going to hurt my feelings. Trust me. I'm a hacker. We don't have feelings. We only want results. We have a lot of action. In other words, we've got questions, but we just don't sit on our questions. When we have a question, we take action to try to find the answer to it. And you guys might have questions, and you're just like you ask the question to yourself, and you're like, okay, well, that's enough of that. I'm on. It's like that graph. Oh, that graph looks cool. That's awesome. Okay, and hit the X, and you're gone. You know, that's that's the extent of your curiosity. You don't really have any curiosity, but obviously we got numbers here. IPs originated right here. Let's start with that. 41 million IPs originated. AS paths observed, 114,656. And of those, 53,000 were VP6. Again, information. Like I said, I'm going to try to make this video as short as possible, but I don't want to delve any further into that. This is just getting started. Like I said, I will go in depth into everything that I'm talking about here in my course. And it's only going to be, I don't know if I told you this at the beginning. I told you I had a price. The price is $14.99 a month. And that's probably the cheapest you're going to find on the internet. You know, and there is no, beginner, intermediate. It's 49, I mean 40, it's $14.99 a month, and that's it. Just pay every $14.99 a month every month, and you can take as many courses as you want. Now, right now, I'm going to probably open it up with just 3 or 4 courses to begin with. But I'm going to try to get it open as soon as I can because I've got people waiting. I've actually got a waiting list for it, to get started at least. I also got my beta testers, which they've got free access to it, because they're beta testers, for one, and they're from my Discord. They want to learn, cybersecurity and everything, and so that's they don't need to be they're learning. I don't need them to know. I need them to be just them. Going through this learning because that's what the majority of the people are going to be doing when they go through this. That allows me to make sure everything is working the way it should be working, and showing what it should be showing and everything's working fine for them. Hopefully on different devices. Hopefully on people that use it on their phone, that go to it on their web browser, on their computer, and maybe on an iPad. Hopefully people that use it and try to go through the website and stuff on different devices, so I can make sure everything's working on multiple devices and everything. Again, beta testers. This is what they're going to be doing. Back to the point here. AS numbers, and I don't want to dwell on this too long because this is going to be a long video, guys. If you haven't noticed by now, a lot of people have been wanting this. It's going to be a long video going over some things, giving you a path to go down. Let's say just explaining to you the point and theory behind some of this stuff, and let you go down those rabbit holes because there's going to be many of them in this video, and do some research on your own. And that's why, like I said, there's going to be a vacancy for a little bit while I get my website built up. Because, okay, let me digress here a minute. I have to build the website because right now, it's set up. There's a blank page there. So I got to get the whole website built and up and running and everything, the membership software and all that and everything. Then I got to get the cloud environment built and get that set up. But then I got to record all the videos, all the tutorials for the courses and everything. I got to put together if I want to open it with 3 or 4 courses, well, I got to put those 3 or 4 courses together completely and finished. And, you know, this again, this gets to the point where, do I want to open it, before all of them are finished and everything? Because, people are dying to get in it. Not a lot, because like I said, there's only 100 people in the Discord, and there is a waiting list on the Discord. Not everybody. It's a short waiting list, but there's people waiting to get in. And I got to get my beta testers in there first on top of that. So they will be the first ones in there before um, I open it. Because that's, I want the beta testing done, before it gets open. And this will all be done on a subdomain. It won't be publicly accessible and everything because, we're testing. So it doesn't need to be publicly accessible. This is for the developers. And in my case, I'm the only developer. So it's for me and my beta testers. And then once everything is ironed out and working and all that stuff, then it'll go over to the public. It won't be a subdomain. It'll actually be the domain, and it'll be publicly accessible then to open up. But like I said, enough of that. ASes. Why is this important? Well, I guess first to decide why you guys sit here and stare at this. First to figure out why it's important, we need to go over the hierarchy of the internet. How do these IP addresses come about in the first place? Okay, first of all, at the top, these are people in charge, by the way. We have ICANN, ICANN, the Internet Corporation for Assigned Numbers and Names, or assigned names and numbers. I got those two backwards, but so what is their role? Well, they basically coordinate the global domain space, the DNS, and they allocate IP addresses in large blocks, mind you, and they ensure the stability and, secure operation of the internet, and all that stuff, along with a bunch of other, things that they manage domain names, IP addresses, protocols, assignments, and all that. You know, they do all that stuff. What's below them? Well, below them are the RIRs, the Regional Internet Registries. And these are the organizations that, actually manage and allocate large blocks of internet IP addresses and autonomous system numbers within specific regions of the world. So your AS has to answer to RIRs, basically, because this is who is in charge of an AS. And again, we went over the RIRs. There's only 5 of them: Aaron, RIP, APNEC, Asia Pacific, LACNEC, and AFRINEC. And who's below them? Well, below them we have NIRs and LIRs. And this is a gray area of NIRs, LIRs, and ASs. Um, because NIRs are national internet registries and LIRs are local internet registries. And you're going to have your ISPs and stuff. And you could say, can an ISP be an LIR? Well, yeah, you got to follow this. An ISP can also be an LIR, but an LIR cannot be an ISP because they don't have customers. An LIR does not lease out or charge for the block of IP addresses that they have. They're issued a large block of IP addresses because they're a multinational company or they're an enterprise, a large corporation, that has multiple offices scattered out. And obviously these offices are going to, they're going to have printers and phones and all kinds of other stuff, storage devices and servers, and they're going to need a lot of IPs. So this is why they'll have a large CIDR, and that could be subnetted in a whole bunch of different ways. And for those of you that want to get into mapping networks and stuff, this is what you got to get. This is the stuff that you got to get into for use CCNP, CCNAs, and CCIEs. This is what you're going to be studying. All this stuff that I'm going to be talking to you about in this video. And again, this does fall into the category of my networking video series. I'm going to put this in the networking playlist, but it's going to be there. It's also going to be classified as a story video, and I'm not going to number it. It's not going to be numbered as the third video in the series. But this like I said, it does involve networking. This is just a bonus video in the network playlist because for one, you're getting, I'm explaining to you the hierarchy of the internet. But I told you about NIRs and LIRs, but below that is ASes, because that's all we're really interested in here right now is RIRs and AS. But I had to throw the LIR and NIRs where they needed to fit. But ASes are collections of IP networks, not IP addresses. This is not IP blocks. ASes are collections of IP networks and routers under the control of a single organization. Now, this is going to be very, very important later on in my talk here. And you'll see why when it comes up. But each one of these, assigns a unique number, an ASN, or is assigned an ASN by an RIR and participates in BGP routing, Border Gateway Protocol routing. This is, the basis of the global internet. And because, all these separate networks have got to communicate, to send their traffic to someone else. If Verizon wants to send, if someone on Verizon wants to go to an IP address that belongs to AT&T, well, how does that cross over the networks? Verizon owns all of their IPs, and AT&T owns all of their IPs. Because they're paying the RIR or AS, for their block. But how does this communication, get connected? Well, the AS is the one that connects it by a BGP. Both networks, or both ISPs, if you will, have border routers, that are aligned around their border. And beyond that is nothing. So that's how traffic leaves their network and goes to another network through an AS. And normally there's agreements with these two. They have a peering agreement. There's other forms of agreement if you want to get into community and assignments and other stuff like that. But again, that's going down too far. Then you guys don't need to go down. But again, let's drop down below that. Obviously, right below the ASs, we have the ISPs. There's 3 tiers: a tier 1, a tier 2, and a tier 3. Now, a tier 1 IP would be like a large national or multinational ISP. For one, they've got a very large block. They can reach, every other network on the internet without purchasing an IP transit, and we'll get into transits also in the course, not really in this video or anywhere else, but that'll be in the course. And they have peering agreements with each other. So that's already set up. A tier 2 ISP has a regional provider that purchases, this transit from a tier 1 provider above it. But it also engages in peering itself, to other customers. And at the bottom, we got our tier 3 ISP, which is, usually a local provider that focuses on like end user connectivity and purchasing transits from tier 1 and tier 2 ISPs. Because it's at the bottom, so maybe it'll go through a tier 1 or tier 2, depending on, who it's got partnerships with, and, this and that and the other. But below the ISPs, you probably heard of this term, we have CDNs, which are large multinational corporations and, I can't think of it right now, content delivery networks. That's what the CDN is. And, they're large companies, and the CDN, Google is a CDN, if you will, in a way, but they often have significant infrastructure, and, they may operate their own ASs because, they're so large they can do that. and they work directly with an ISP or an RIR. You know, they basically bypass the AS and everything to manage their own network resources. And this is, this particular what Google, Amazon, Facebook, Akamai, if you know who they are, but this pertains to them because they're big enough to have a CDN and manage their own uh, networks and everything. Probably, like I said, more than likely control their own ASs. And then at the bottom, we got individuals and organizations like us, consumer people, smaller corporations and smaller businesses, and this and that, which more than likely we're going through an ISP, Verizon, wherever we're ordering, Cox, wherever we get our service from, level 3, whatever, you know. But that's covering the hierarchy of the internet, if you will. Now we're getting to the end, and I'm probably going to have to shut this down, at some point, because we're already, approaching an hour and 10 minutes. I don't know if I want to go a full, 2 hours or not, but we'll see. Now, I still haven't got into, this here. I was going to say, we're already like an hour and 10 minutes, hour and 15 minutes into this. And, I'm deciding on, what I want to, keep in and not, take out. Do I want to talk about this or not? Okay, well, I can't talk about it. I was just sitting here looking at this, and it does bring up Bogon routes, since we're here. And like I said, this is Hurricane Electric Internet Services. You can go to it, look at this subdomain up here, bgp.he.net, Border Gateway Protocol, hurricaneelectric.net. So you can see what their focus is on. Their focus literally is on AS and the Border Gateway Protocol, and that's what all these tools over here pertain to. But you can see we got super trace route, super looking glass, but down below down here we got regular looking glass, and you guys don't know what looking glass is yet, or bogon routes, but that's going to come up into what I'm going to talk about right now. Kind of related to ISPs and how ISPs might want to lay out their network. When you're doing a trace route, you know, you're going to get a lot of information in the trace route. Most people don't pay attention to a trace route, but there's a lot of, if you want to map a network, well, trace route can get you started because you're going to go through, you're going to see uh, each network. You might go through multiple ISPs. You might go through 2 or 3 different ISPs to go to whatever network you're going to. I do this on my websites. I got a lot of domains, and I'll do a trace route from my computer to my domain name. And this is where my VPN comes in. And this has absolutely nothing to do with security, really. Well, in an indirect way it does, but um, I'll just on my home computer. No, I'll turn the VPN off and everything, and I'll just do a straight, you know, I'll put in my domain name and go straight to my server because I want to see the route that is taken to get there. And then turn on my VPN, and I'll pick California. Then I'll do it from Chicago. Then I'll do it from New York, and then I'll do it from overseas. I'll do it from Iraq, from Iran. Um, I'll just pick countries at random and stuff, and because I want to see, all paths that lead home. you know, Anyone that is coming to my server, um, I want to know all of the different routes and paths that it could go to because an AS is going to choose the fastest path possible to get to the location. There's plenty of paths that can give you, like I said, like if you're a taxi driver and you want to take the long way, to the airport, just so your ride pays more money, an AS can do that, you know. It can send you the long way route to get to, my network, but it's got no reason to do that. So it's going to send, you the quickest path there. And these paths I record, and I go through them when I evaluate the security of my website. And where I might possibly get hacked. Because if I get hacked, and you never know, someone lives in the States here, this might decide to hack my server, so you never know. You might think automatically that you're gonna, oh, you need to start overseas, because that's who's going to pick on you. Well, no, you don't know really where it's going to come. So if you want to do thorough security uh, locking up on your servers and everything, this is one of the things that you should do. Map the different paths to your server from different parts of the world. And you're, like I said, you're just hardening your security posture even more by doing this. It's going to give you a lot more work, true. But to do this, you need to understand the network, like a CCNA or CCNP. And you understand how, the architect, they're architected, how they're put together, their schemas and everything, how the servers are named, because they're named in certain way, because, you know, they're going to hire people, whether you're Verizon or AT&T or whatever, you know, employees don't stay, all the people come and go. So you're always going to be bringing in, new people, you know, and they could be, brand new out of school with their certificate, and, they're wet behind the ears. So you got to break them in on how the real world is, not the schooling and the course, that you guys, this is how the real world works. And so they got an onboarding process that they go through. And these is one of the, they gotta memorize and learn your network. Okay, now I'm working for you. So now it's my job. I got to spend time in learning this system. My company's network. And how it's set up, how it's organized, and all that stuff. Where our server farms are at, where our servers are located, how the racks are set up, how many servers do we have in a rack, and what's our naming scheme, you know, and your naming scheme, like I said, to do a trace route, you know, and that could be the HQ network, the headquarters network. It could be the sales network, the IT network, the support network, and yeah, your network admin, he could segment or subnet your office network up into teams. Okay, I'm going to say, the sales department's going to have their own uh, subnet. The IT department is going to have their own subnet. We're going to have, we have another zone set up that's our DMZ zone that surrounds our whole network. First of all, when someone comes into our network from outside, they're going to hit our DMZ first, and we're going to have honeypots there. We're going to have a lot of other distractions, you know, and the path to our real network inside the office here and everything, they'll have to fish that out, and again, eventually they will, but it takes time. They got to mosey around and everything. And what are they doing when they're moseying around? What's the purpose? Like, well, why do you even put up a DMZ anyway? It's useless. They're going to get through it. They're going to find your way to the network anyway. Everything has a reason. The DMZ is to profile you. When you first get into the net, off the big internet, and you first get into their first tier, which is their DMZ zone, they know nothing about you. Are you a script kiddie? Because if you are, we're not afraid of you. Or are you someone like me? You know, and they want to know as soon as you get in. They want a path that they can watch or they can go back to later in the logs, and they can follow what you do because they want to see the path that you take. Like, oh, look at this. Oh yeah, he's going here now. Oh, he went there. Yeah, he's got no clue. He didn't even know what he's doing. He's roaming around here like a blind person with a cane. You know, so and with a short one at that, because he's got no idea where he's going. He's just looking for something. He doesn't even know what he's looking for, actually, because he hasn't hit an important target yet, or even a mildly important one. He's hit random shit basically here, and that's what they're doing. They're profiling you as you're going through this fake internet part, And more than likely, if you are that inexperienced, you don't even know that you're in a DMZ. Because for one, you don't even know that there is such a thing. Which means you're probably going to go to the first honeypot you see. You're going to see an FTP server or a web server that it's a honeypot, but you're going to see it as a web server. Oh, there's a web server. Oh, that was easy. And you're going to dive right in. They're going to be following everything you do. Every command you're issuing, they're going to be following everything you're doing. But anyway, we have network segments. Then we got server centers. Before you even got to the sales or IT, before that, your path went through maybe a service center for the company. And these are unique assignedly, names and stuff that they use, different naming conventions, for the network admin to distinguish, okay, well, this went through our Dallas server or this went through our New York server, and everything. Especially if you're one of these large these large outfits that have their own AS, like a CDN, you know, you're so big, but you're the network administrator of Google or whatever, and you got your own AS, and you got to know where these things, where everything's at. You got to know all this stuff when you're tracking down attackers and stuff and trying to find out where they're coming from. Now we can get into server racks. Okay, we know the server we know the server center this person went through and everything, but what server, and what rack, you know. Well, your servers are broken down into names, and your server racks can be broken down into different acronyms and abbreviations and stuff. Like I said, there's many of them, but this takes studying, guys. You got to spend days and weeks and trace route and just writing these down in an Excel sheet or whatever, and trying to figure out them yourself by just using common sense. Web 01. Okay, well, we know what that is. DB1 or DB-1. Okay, well, that's common sense. We know what that's a database. But sometimes things aren't that clear cut. Sometimes they're a little, sketchy and don't make sense. And the only one that would know what it is would someone be a network admin or a new hire that's going through onboarding, and he's going through all of these and memorize them because he's got a cheat sheet. You know, he's got the breakdown of their naming scheme in front of him and everything, and he's memorizing these as he goes, and so he's got an advantage over you, even though he's new, because you don't know this. You got to guess this, yourself, or find some way to do it. There's other ways to do it, but that's for you guys to find out. Um, and then we got the location in the rack. You know, we know this. We know the server center. We know the rack. We got the server's name. Now, what's the location in this? Is this the fifth server? Is it the 15th server? Is it the 20th server? Well, first of all, ask. If you don't know now, ask the person. Your superior or a partner. Sitting next to you. How many? How big are our racks? How many servers do we have in the rack to begin with? So I know, but yeah, so you need to know the location also in Iraq. And, that's another acronym or, naming convention that you're going to have to, break down. But that's one of the things that you're going to have to put all together, when you get, getting into trace routes and stuff. And also IP addresses. An IP address that starts with 100 should be suspicious to you right off the bat. And I'll get into that in a minute when I get into my Excel sheet, my upgraded Excel sheet, which will be freely available on the Discord if you're a level 5 or higher. It will be. You don't get it until you reach level 5 on the server, because you need to participate on the server and help others out, or at least communicate and chat and stuff and be active in the server, to get any perks. That's why the levels are there. The levels aren't there for you to brag about. Oh, I'm level 15. No, the levels are there for perks. And if you don't reach them, well, then you won't get any of those perks. So, uh, if you want to join the server and just be quiet and sit back and watch everything, well, that's fine. You're not going to get anything from it, but that's fine. You can do that. But but now let's get into a little bit of also networking that you guys might get into. I mentioned uh, CIDRs and subnetting. I won't get into the subnetting and RIRs, but I'm going to mention a few things on it here. But we've also got VLSM along with the CDR. And what is VLSM? Well, that stands for Variable Link Subnet Masking. And I won't, like I said, the video is getting long enough. I'll let you guys delve into that if you want to get into that. But, within larger CID or blocks, ISPs and organizations can use VLSM to subnet the address space into a smaller, more precisely sized subnet based on their specific need. Now, what do I mean by that? I mean by, let's say they want to subnet their network to uh, a section in the office that only really needs 5 ISPs, and that's it. You know, that's that particular area in the office isn't going to grow any larger. Or we got 5 devices in there, and that's all that there will ever be in there. Let's just say. Well, they can do that without wasting IPs by doing a VLSM subnet. And like again, I said, for you guys that are getting into CCNA and CCNP, you guys will pick all that stuff, when you get into that. If you're not going to go down this path, then you don't need to know anymore, about that, because it's not going to come into, your realm of what you're doing or anything, unless you're going to be a network admin or anything like that. But, basically what we went over here, in a little, in a short amount of, 100,000 foot level time, is global routing and routing between regions. And that's, where the RIRs and ASes come in. That's who handles that. And to get back to my political area, first of all, you got to know the world. You know, when I say Angola, you need to know right off the bat where it is. You can picture it in your head exactly where it's located in Africa. Um, and this is, you're not going to be a geography expert, but you need to be one, because if you're going to get into researching, countries and politics and stuff is going to come in to your study a lot, because this is what motivates hacking organization, cyber criminals, and everything to begin with, especially hacktivists. Why? What's the word hacktivist mean? Well, they're uprising against something, and usually that's human rights, or being mistreated, or our government is corrupt, or anyone pick, pull something out of the hat. This is what starts hacktivists, and for you to understand them, you need to know the region, or what their main, reasons are on that, and that usually involves where they come from mostly. Like anonymous, it could be worldwide. You know, it's not really centered into one region, so to speak. They're against human abuse, human rights, and stuff. That's what they're for, and they want to protect. So it's not really centered to one country. It's a collective. Anonymous is a collective of people from all over the world that basically unite as one large group. But there are specialized hacktivists. Like Syria. Syria's got hacktivists, and it only pertains to the politics and stuff going on in Syria. And the same with some other Middle Eastern countries and stuff. And if you want to get into that particular specialization, let's say, you need to be familiar with what's going on in that area. And like I said, I read newspapers and stuff from all over the world. And, if I want to read a Syrian newspaper or something, well, first of all, I need to understand the language a little bit. And again, that's what goes into me being a linguistic, basically, because, I'm not learning 32 languages, you know, to be a polyglot, necessarily, um, or a linguist, but I have to study linguists to understand languages to begin with, so I can learn them quicker. Because I don't want to learn a lifetime to learn just 2 languages, because I don't want to be fluent. I just want to be able to communicate good enough to where I'm understood, and that's fine. That's fine for my scenario. But with that, guys, I think maybe we can close this discussion part of it up and move on. Let me see. Oh, no, yeah, I don't. I first, yeah, but get back to. I almost veered off there. Um, the newspapers, I need to, I want to pick up on local news because that's how you get to the root of things. Not reading the national, I don't want to read about Syria through CNN or Fox. What do they know about Syria? If I want to get down to the heart of the matter, I need to get to the source. And depending on how touchy this is, especially if I'm learning stuff on the deep web or dark web, if I'm on their learning news, yes, there's news sources on, there's talk and chats going on, on how people actually feel. And, they might be planning something, who knows? But because that's where these things are talked about. Not everything is about guns and drugs and everything on the dark web. There's other stuff that goes on too that shouldn't go on the clear net. But if I'm going to poke around in these areas and everything, obviously everyone that is on these dark webs and deep webs, they know that security researchers are also there. They know that the security firms, all the security, FireEye and everybody, CloudStrike, all of them, they've all got, teams of researchers that scour the deep web and dark web for research. Pretending to be one of them, and this and that and the other and everything. Now, speaking of which, pretending to be somebody or not, this brings up a good point because you got your sock puppets. If you're going to get into OSINT, yeah, I'm going to deviate a little bit here from what we're talking about, but it brings up a good point. Sometimes you got to pretend to be someone you're not. Now, way long before the internet came and everything, I had great practice in this when I was in the blackjack card counting team. I had to pretend to be a rich person with a lot of money and everything. That's how I got. And so, I had to get good at that. But this brings up a good point. I'm going to bring up my show, Wall Street and Michael Douglas, because here's a quick little snippet of an interview that he was in. Because, it all came out, why you know, people are so into Gecko, and Gecko is the star of the show, and that's not what was intended to be. But, everyone just, everybody loves the bad guy. Darth Vader, just think about it. It's always the bad guy that gets loved. But, so the guy asked him, because Michael Douglas is a method actor. And so he goes, "How did you set up for this anyway?" And he goes, "Well," he goes, "talk about OSN. This is an exercise for you guys that want to get into OSN." He says, "Well," he goes, "I actually based this on two. I think he said two or three, maybe I don't know which one, but it was whatever people, but actual Wall Street brokers. He goes, I won't mention no names, but yeah, he goes, Gecko was actually based off of them, real life people and everything." And apparently that's how he became famous. His look and every, um, the look, by the way, and a lot of people have brought this up, and he also says this in this interview too. But you guys know Riley, right? The Miami Heat coach. He's got that good looking look. With the suit and the tie, and everything, and the slick back hair like Gecko had and everything. Well, actually, Riley and Michael Douglas are good friends, and he literally they talked about it. He talked with Riley about it, and he says, "You know what? Here's I am going to model the character off of you. I'm going to have it's going to have your hair look and everything like that." And that's that whole joke. Everyone says you look just like Riley in that movie, and well, that was on purpose. He intended to do that, but um, here's what he says, because if you're going to get into OSINT and make your sock puppets and everything, you have to take on these personas that you're playing for them to be believable. Because that's the whole point. Especially if we're on the deep web or dark web, you want these people to believe you, and that includes your accent. If you're not fluent in a language, and you know that native people are going to recognize that. And trust me, you're not you're not the first bad guy to try to invade their territory. That doesn't speak the language fluently. There's other ones, and everything, but you got to, pass the smell test, so to speak. You got to convince them, this is where you got to play your role and everything. But I'm gonna play you this clip right here and everything. And the purpose behind this is uh, for an exercise for you all. I want you to try to find out who the two brokers are that he's talking about. They're popular brokers, and I did my OS cent, and I found out. But again, I'm not telling you guys. If you're interested, if you're that motivated enough that you want to find out, well, put your OS cent to the skills to the test and see if you can find out. If you can't find out now, well, then wait until you take my course and learn a whole lot more about how to do OS and everything, and then try again and see if you can pull this off and find out who he's talking about. But let me throw that in real quick right here.
Who is that guy right there when you look at him?
Well, it's a character. You know, you make
But
him
that
up
time of
from
the
a combination.
in your life.
There were two or three which will go unnamed. Big time players on Wall Street that I incorporated some of their elements, having met some.
And so that's why they're gonna look at your IP, and they're gonna automatically assume that's not you. They know that okay, you're not surfing here from your actual home IP. Some people are stupid enough to trust me, and they're like just laughing at you. Now they're going to hack your computer and get on your social media and disgrace you and ruin your life basically, just because you're stupid and you went someplace where you didn't really shouldn't be, and now you're going to pay for it because they're going to stress you out. They're going to make you cry and maybe commit suicide or what, because these are what we call trolls. That's what they're doing. They're trolling you. And they do it just for the laughs. That's all they do it for. They're laughing on the misery they're causing you. And the more misery that you publicly show them, the more that it motivates them. If you don't get triggered and it doesn't bother you, like me, I just say, okay, big fucking deal. You know, I don't give a shit what you think about me. Go do whatever. There's no fun in that for them. They don't get no enjoyment out of that. They can't even tell their friend about you because there's no lulls there. There's no fun or laughing to be had. You know, yeah, well, did you try this? Yeah, I tried that. Did you try this? Yeah, I tried that. Well, what you do? He don't give a shit. It's not. He's not bothered by it at all. Okay, well, okay. Why are we doing it then? you know, there's nothing for it. There's nothing for us in this. But again, yeah, don't go into the dark web if you don't know what the hell you're doing. Just plain and simple. There's nothing curious for you to see there. Anything. People there are people are there for a reason, and it doesn't involve you. Obviously, you're not buying guns, you're not buying drugs or bombs, or any of this other stuff, narcotics or drugs. All those other, you know. And if you're not there for that, then or looking into like what I look into, on what's really going on in Syria or Iran, or what the people really think of the regime and the government and stuff, and they want to be quiet and everything, and they know their own government was probably looking for them also on the dark web and all that stuff, so they know this. So when they see your IP, they're going to try to find out more about it. If you're asking too many questions or the wrong questions, it might raise suspicion in them, and they might, like, okay, who the hell is this person? He's getting too nosy now. Why is he probing so much? They're going to try to track you down, and they already expect a fight. They know you. Okay, we're going to have to go through a VPN probably first, and then he's probably going to have more other hops that we're going to have to go through, and who knows where else. Well, this is when I go through an RIR or an AS. Literally go through it. And I'm not doing anything bad to the RIR or AS. What I'm doing is, this is another insight for you guys into elite hackers, if you will. I'm looking to hide myself even further than my VPN that I'm using and the other computers that I'm using as jump off points and everything. Well, once I leave the actual computer that I want to hack from, before I do that, I want to put one more layer of security between me and my target. And I'll go through an AS for that. And what specifically am I looking for? This is another rabbit hole for you people. Um, what I'm looking for is called an intermediate masking provider. And so you might ask, well, what the hell are they? Well, this is the area at the top of the internet, the global internet, where there's very few people. Like I said, probably only anonymous, and elite hackers, if you will, and very experienced cyber criminals and APTs, which are foreign nation states, and that's about it. Other than the people that belong here, like the people that are running the internet, and the RIRs, the ASes, and stuff like that, the ISPs. But they're the only ones that are here now. Why? What am I looking for this intermediate masking provider for? That's because there's a thing on the internet called bullet hosting, and all these bad guys, that have these big, bad websites or illegal websites, or where they're serving their malware and ransomware from. Because when they hack into your laptop in your home with a malware, well, that malware is going to download a virus. So you might ask, okay, well, where is it getting this virus? Well, it's going to get it from their server, or maybe, a zombie computer that they have. They might do that, but there could be a possibility that it might come from their server if this is a brand new virus that they just got out, or an exploit that they just got done developing and they're testing it. And when you do have a zombie computer or a jumping computer, in other words, that's all you use it for. You have a malware there that's not doing no harm. The person don't even know it's there, more than likely. And all it is doing, it's a relay for you, basically. You're going to connect to it and leave it. That's all you're going to do. You're not going to take up any other bandwidth other than that. And you're not going to do anything on their computer. You don't care about finding out who they are or their webcam or anything like that. This is just a jump point for you. You don't want to lose these when you have them, and you don't want them discovered either. So you want to be as sly as possible. You don't want to raise no suspicion on anything. So the last thing you want is, you don't want your malware to act up or anything to where it needs help. It needs IT support, and you can't give it to it right now. And so they'll host these on their web. This is just one of the things that they do on their own hosting. They'll host these on their own systems and everything until they try it out and test it and everything, and make sure it does what it needs to do and it works fine and everything, because that's what this is supplying a reverse shell back to them, and they're using their own hosts, to do this. So if the malware is going to have any problems or anything, they're going to be able to see it now before they actually put it out on their junk computers, let's say. And they use this because what this intermediate masking provider does is it separates the AS from the bullet host. Because if the AS identifies the bullet host, it's going to be blacklisted. It's going to be, its service is going to be shut off and everything. It's all of its IP addresses are going to be on a blacklist and everything. And that business is shut down basically now. And so what these intermediaries do is, the bulletproof people connect to them, and they connect to the AS because the AS trusts the intermediate masking provider. And that's what hides the bullet host. Now, okay, since we're this far into this video, and I've lost everybody else by now, even maybe a government person that's been watching this video. Hopefully he's gotten bored and left. This is where my hacking comes in, to where there's no ethics in it. Okay, this this is where my ethics at. I'm still a good hacker. I'm an independent researcher, and I've got my own goal. I'm not going to do any harm to you personally. I'm using you as a jump off point now. But first, I got to find out if you got any vulnerabilities, because I need to weigh in. I'm not going to pay you, but I need to use you for a time period. I won't say how long, but yeah, I need to use you for a bit for now, until you do find out about it. And again, that depends on how well your security is. Are you going to find me if once I put my little bitty jump off malware in your? It's going to be a very, very small file, because it doesn't need to be a lot of programming in it. It's basically going to be a very, very, very small server. This is going to accept my connection and then relay it. That's all it's going to do. So it doesn't really need a lot to it. And this is how you hide. You've got a very, very, very small imprint on the overall scheme of things, and more than likely, an admin on that server would, for him to find you, he would probably have to accidentally just stumble onto you. Because if you're not doing a whole lot, you know, there shouldn't be a whole lot of bandwidth coming through. And is this a type of admin that is anal, about statistics, and might see, that you've got a very, very small amount of network traffic or packets that went through and everything. And, most admins don't pay attention to it, because look, we're looking for problems, and problems entail large amounts of traffic going through our system. We want to see where that's coming from and where it's going. And so this is how you hide. But again, this is one of the areas, that for me to have that anonymity, I need to break into their server and use them as a jump off point. And now I'm hidden, because now the bad people are trying to track me down, and they're going to run into this intermediate masking provider, and they're probably not going to know what to do when they run into it. They're going to be like, what the hell is this? Because I do have just a little bit extra programming for someone that's trying to backtrack me into that, because, again, I'm not going to get into that, but I can tag my connection. When my traffic goes into my little program, I can put a tag on it and send it out. Very, it's nonchalant. You know, Even if someone's looking at my information and burp or whatever, you'd have to know what you're looking for and what you're looking at when you see it, and why it's there. But it's just a little tag. But any connection coming back that also does not include that tag, that did not come from me. And my little program knows that. So it's going to filter it. And what's it going to do? What is it going to do to not cause any suspicion? I'm going to give you guys another acronym that you can look up here. RTBH. And that's a remotely triggered black hole filter. That's a fancy name for something I'm going to talk about in a minute. But look over here, see Bogon routes. Technically speaking, that's pretty much a Bogon route, which is a private address. Yeah, you heard that right. A fancy name for a private address, but there's actually an acronym for it and a name for it, but it puts it in a different context when you say it like this, because this is traffic that is, when you on your private address at home, 198.162, it's got a purpose. It's going to your printer or your PlayStation or your TV or whatever. It's got a purpose. But no, an RTBA or Bogon network, but these are filtered, by a router. Usually it could be an IDS, but it's filtered traffic to go into a black hole. In other words, to go in, it goes into and it doesn't come out. And that's a private address. It's going to be filtered once it hits to the private address. It's going to know it's a private address, and it's going to be dropped. and you just went into a black hole. But that's what, yeah, people trying to backtrack me, their path ends there. If they were doing a trace route, let's say, the trace route would hit my intermediate masking provider, and that's where they would get their little asterisk marks. No reply. Connection is lost here. Then now the person's like, well, that sucks. How are we going to get around this? And see, unlike an actual, because you can on a network trace, that is supposed to continue. That will continue to the next hop. You know, if you got a hop on, let's say hop 5 that's got four asterisks, it'll go to route hop 6, and you'll get more asterisks, then a hop 7, and maybe 4 more asterisks. But then it'll go to hop 8, and it'll continue, and you're like, wait a minute, how did it do? How did it, you know? It just completely skipped 3 hops. How did it hop 8 know where to pick up at? That's because the communication is still going. The path is still continuing. It's just that those ones with asterisks, because of router rules or filtering rules or whatever, it didn't want to include itself in this hub, but it did forward it on. So you're still going. You're still going to reach for your destination, but it just didn't want its information in there. Now on my particular traceback, when they're trying to track me back down, this is what gives them a clue that they're chasing someone that knows what they're doing, because their packet is going to hit this intermediate masking provider, and it's just going to stop. There's not going to be no asterisks coming back. They're going to get the little spinny thing on their mouse, that's waiting, and nothing's coming back because it did not get forwarded. It's the communication stopped right there. It went into a black hole, and that's it. End of the line for you guys here. There's nothing else to see beyond this point, and unless you belong here. If you don't belong here, well then you're not here. So that's how I would use that, and that's how that's that's a valuable thing to be able to know. And there's a lot of people that I can sell this to, or sell this little bitty tiny program to. But again, that's a service that I know about, and I use on my own. I don't really provide this out, or will probably I'll never release it and everything, because as an independent research, this is one of my pluses that gives me a plus up on my research, because I can research anybody by using this path, because this is the only path that I can do this on. By using this path, it's the only way that I can go someplace, and if someone tries to backtrack me, they're going to hit a dead end, and they're not going to be able to go any further. And that dead end is an intermediate masking provider. That's exactly where that dead end ends, because it's going to treat me, basically like, well, I'm treating myself basically because of my tag that I have, but it's basically like, the server is, protecting the bullet host company in a way, because information is not going back to it. It's being hidden from the rest of the internet, even from the AS, because it's only a one-way communication for its traffic, because the intermediate masking provider is blocking, and it's getting paid by that. But you see, I'm using a free ride here. I've hacked them, and my little program is there for free, so I'm not part of that. And if it does get taken down and they find it and everything, then I just put it on another masking provider, because there's more than one. But to even be able to do this, you got to find these providers, and because they're very, very particular about the clients they take on. Um, so it's going to take some creativity, to find where they're at, and you can find them on the deep web, not so much, well, the dark web. I mean, not so much the deep web, but their services are on the dark web, and even then, there's a vetting process that you'll have to go through and everything. But I don't go through all that. You know, I kind of like troll, their sales routine, their forum board, if you will, and I just follow their conversations, and I read in between the lines on things because they're talking like criminals and stuff. They're talking in code, you know, and everything, and I decipher. Eventually, I'll decipher it, or I might use other for nefarious ways, like I did, hacking the provider to begin with to get my program there. I might do the same thing from the forum board. In other words, hack them from the forum board. But that's getting into a whole other area we don't. I've told you guys enough already. This is getting in. This is getting in where the big boys fight the big boys area. And yes, there's a lot of this that goes on, because everybody wants information. Everybody wants to. Their hackers will hack other hackers to get their tools, because they don't want to pay for them. So if they can find out where you're located, if they can find out where your tools are located and everything like that, they'll try to hack into your server just to get, your malware and everything that you have or your tools or whatever. If you've got a tool kit that you put together, and they'll do it just for that. So yeah, there's no, like I said, this is wild, wild west down here. There's no rules down here. Anything goes. But with that, we covered and we went down this road enough. If I wasted enough of you guys' time, um, let me see, because I do have a timer now. Oh yeah, we're approaching 2 hours. Good God. Um, yeah, I don't, like I said, I don't know if there's going to be a part two to this. This is, like I said, my last video for a while to give you guys some insight into stuff, and there's still stuff that I'm not going to be able to get into unless I want to go over 2 hours, which I'm close to now. But go to this website bgp.he.net and get into it. Oh, let me real quick because I'm going to go over 2 hours real quickly here. I got to give you guys this. Let me switch over. Let me switch OBS over. Yes, Microsoft Excel. This is this is actually up on the Discord by now, and this is freely available for those over level 5. But you can see what it is here. Let me put a 1 over here. There, and now you can see what it is. Now, first, let me say something. You see this graph right here. I'm going to highlight it. This graph right here. This is going to be beneficial to you guys because I copied this graph. Now I put in, all the programming for this and everything. I had to put that in manually because he gives this away for free. If you're, like I said, if you're a member of his, you can pick it up. I forgot now where it was at, but I don't know if it was on his. I don't know. He's got multiple places. He's got a Udemy course. He's on YouTube, and he's got his own membership area on his website because he also has an online course. And it might be on his website. You might have to actually be on his website, and you can pick this up for free. This chart, he has an Excel chart, but not as pretty as mine. But he does have this graph, and it looks exactly like this. Except it has up here where it says Hacker Lab Central, it has his course name on it. But everything else, the yellow parts and blue parts and everything, all of this right here is exactly how this looks in his Excel. So why did I do that? Well, this is a game that I want to put in here in my online course or in the Discord for those of you that are watching this video. And my course videos will have the same nuggets in them. I'm going to use things that I like from courses that I take, and there's going to be prizes. There's going to be money prizes. There's going to be actual giveaway prizes, and maybe some more prizes if I can get some sponsors to sponsor this also. Who knows? Maybe hardware, maybe software. Who knows? It depends on who I can get to be a sponsor in this stuff. But I'm gonna be giving my own prizes away and everything, and that's including this one. There's a prize in this one right here that you're watching. If anyone in Discord can tell me in chat, tag me in the chat room on whose course this came from, this diagram. Tell me whose course it come on. And the first one, there's only going to be one. The first one that gives me the answer will get free access to all of my course content, both the video tutorials and the labs. And the labs are going to be expensive because, there's going to be different tiers, but the labs are going to go up to advanced because there will be people that are advanced taking my courses because they want to learn the information that I have, like what I just went over with you guys. They might want to know, or their employer might want them to know some of this information and everything. And this will be, well, for one, they won't be paying for it more than likely. Their employer will be paying for their to take their course and everything. So the price doesn't matter to them personally. It's going to be part of their work. But it could be like 5 or 6 or 8 at a time, because only an enterprise or a large multinational company would be interested in what I have to teach from a hacker's perspective, and want their employees to go through the course, especially their CCNAs and CCNPs, their network administrators and stuff. That's who's probably going to do it. And because they're so large, they might have a pretty large network, and they might have offices, in California, in Chicago, in New York. That's 3 locations just in the States. Then they might have some overseas. They might have 1 or 2 in Europe, and maybe elsewhere. Who knows? But there's going to be a network administrator in each one of these and all that stuff in different locations and all that. And this is the whole point. They're the ones that are going to be paying for their employees to go through this training. And there's going to be more training. There's going to be hacker training and different training, but it's going to be at an advanced level, and it's open for you guys. Like I said, it's not going to be part of the $14.99 price, but this is going to be for them. But enough of that, and that doesn't really pertain to you guys. It might pertain to you guys in another year or 2 or whatever. But all this is, I've just connected this graph when I didn't connect it. But this is information on, and I'll go over more. This will be in my course. We'll fully break this down. But this is just for those of you that want this. You guys have seen what I taught you about up here and what it's used for. But this is going into subnetting, and I'm going to teach you guys about CIDRs, because this is a very complicated thing that a lot of people can't get their heads around. And I'm going to break it down to you real simple right now. I'm going to fill this up here at the top. And you can see right here under the AP column, the /7 and these 2 host parts. This is programmed, and it's going to be changing to match down here. So you see the /7, 33 million right there. Well, right there's your /7, 33 million. Oh, I went to slash. How did it go to 8? Oh, I went to. How did another 1 get in there? I don't know how number 1 magically appeared there. But anyway, okay, now we're on 8. But you can see how the 16,777,000, you see it matches and everything. That's all that's gonna happen with this when I fill this in. This the slash notation, or the CIDR, basically, is what that is. But let's go all the way over here. And there's our subnet mask of a class B or /24, if you will, network. It's 3 or 6 Fs, which is 255, 255, 255, and X. Now you see down here this X. This X means the number you're gonna put here is gonna be one of these numbers. Right now we're on a 24, a /24, which is right here in this column, the AX column. And right here where it says subnet mask, It says 255. So this is what you would put in this X part right here. You know, and since it's a /24, we got 255, 255, and now we're going to put 255 in the X right here. If we wanted a /16, well, we would still use 255, but it would be 255, 255, 00. Because you're going to put the 255 with it. If you want, if this is a /8 CIDR, well, it's just going to be 255.000. That's all it's going to be. So whatever number cross references, you know, if it was a /27, we'd put a 224 where the X is. So I don't need to harp on that anymore. You guys see the relationship of what you would do here. And this programming up here just follows, you know, this right here. And I'm going to go back. Let me go back here all the way to the beginning. Just to explain something to you before you ask. I always, if this is going to be subnet mask stuff or CIDR, I always leave a 1 in the 31. Because if we don't, if we remove that 1, then our host number here goes up to /32, and we get this long ass number, which is basically number 1 doubled. That's all it is. And there's no such thing. And we up here we have a /0. And you can see by, you know, there is no 0. It begins with /1, so there's no 0. So you need a 1 there to get started in CIDR. And like I said, I'll cover this more and later, more in depth, you know, in my course. But if you have this Excel sheet right here, it'll help you out a lot when you do take the course and it comes to this, especially if you're getting into networking. And it'll also be helpful in reverse engineering also. I don't like it because that's a little bit wider than it should. But because we'll be using this binary up here for a lot of other stuff. All this right here from AP over, all this right here, that only pertains to CIDR and subnetting. That's all. It doesn't pertain to anything else. And you guys can catch up on that. I don't want to go any further than what this already. We're 3 minutes over our 2-hour mark. Yes, I remembered to start the stopwatch this time. But you can see what this is all private addresses and for their own purposes. Let me open up the AP column here so we can see it all. But this right here, this 100, I mentioned this. When you do a trace route, this is going to help you to map an ISP network. Because what this is the ISP's local host. And it's only valid, like you know, ARP is used on this IP range because it like I said, it's their local network. And just like your LAN is your local network. And everything will work on it, you know, as long as you're inside your network. You can send ARP requests and everything and find hosts and find things and do things what you would normally do with ARP and everything. But it only in your network. The ARP will not leave your exterior router because it'll get stripped by the router because it needs an actual IP address to go out, you know, on that. And this is distinguishing, you know, MAC addresses from IP address. All ARP, you know, you're associating a MAC address to an IP address. That's all it is. And your MAC address has no business being out on the internet, so to speak. So when your traffic leaves your local network or your LAN and everything, your public-facing router, you know, your ISP router, will strip the MAC off. But anyway, this is called for the ISP. This is called a CGN, and I made comments here for you people also. The CG, come on, don't mess with me now. What are you doing? There. A carrier grade NAT. And yeah, NAT is the same as your NAT, local NAT, and, you know, as long as you're not using bridging, but, you know, for larger scale NAT deployments by ISPs. And when you do a trace route, even though it is a private address, you will see a 100.64 or an IP address in this range in your trace route. So, know that too. You might recognize this IP at 169.254. This one. For any of you that have DHCP, and what is this? Well, it's an automatic private IP address device configured. And, again, this goes to DHCP. If your computer comes on, first thing it's going to try to do is get an IP address. So it's going to hit your DHCP server. Well, for whatever reason, if your DHCP doesn't answer, or whatever, well, it's going to say, well, okay, I need some kind of address. So it's going to use this. And this automatically when you see this, it automatically tells you got a problem with your DHCP server because your device tried to get an IP address and it didn't, and so this is where it put it. And you can see the same thing over here, a little bit further though. 169.244.169.244. It just repeats. The first two is the same as the last two. And this is AWS. If you look at it here, host having an interesting use for local link address. And again, why is it interesting? Well, if you get into hacking cloud services and stuff like that, or pen trusting cloud services like that, yes, there are, companies that will hire cloud pen testing people to specialize in that area to, penetrate their cloud environments to make sure they're safe. But, usually it's a special web server that exists on every EC2 segment. And, for those of you that are familiar with AWS, as I'll be getting into, because I'll have an EC2 server for my labs. And the same thing here with Azure. Microsoft Azure allows use of the same address, but it defines a unique global public address, 168.63.129.16, for the same purpose. It's important to note that this address is actually registered by Microsoft themselves. It should be considered an anycast address rather than a link local address. And like I said, my network section in my course, we'll dig, further into link list addresses and stuff like that, and we'll play around with those. And this is, our other, famous private addresses are /8, /12, and /16. And you see this is on the outskirts, right? /8, 16, 24, and all that. And this is, your 10.000, your 172.16, blah, 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 and 192, 168, 00. This is what we usually normally do on our, VMs and, setting up our VM networks, our own lab, in a, a VM environment and everything. We'll be using these addresses to set these up locally. But I think I've covered everything I need to cover. And we can close this to an end. Now we're over 2 hours. I don't expect you guys to listen to this video all in one sitting. If you did, awesome. Yay, thanks. You impressed me already. But anyway, remember, tell me who this come from. This part right here that I'm highlighting, not this bottom part, not these private addresses and stuff. That's my addition. He just uses this, he other than this is the only thing that's decorated with these colors and looks fancy. He does cover this up here that I did, but he does it like right here. It's a plain white background, and that's what he did it on. Boring. Mine looks cool. so, anyway, with that, like I said, you guys can find this in the Discord, upgraded version of it that includes this and everything. And with that, guys, I'm going to close it down. We are done for this video. I don't know when the next video will be up, but like I said, I got a lot of work to do in the meantime for that. But like I said, I got to make the videos for my course too. But we'll see when I get around, to putting another one up and continuing. But as far as material, it's my job to get you guys homework, and I just giving you guys a lot of homework. This applies to, CCNA, CCA, but it also applies to cybersecurity. You guys are going to have to know networks, maybe not to the same extent as in CCNA, but you're still going to have to understand it. You're still going to have to understand the CIDR here, how subnetting works, how to map an ISP, how to map a network. How are you going to be a pen tester if you can't map the network? I mean, so the better that you can do these things and everything, the better it is for you. So it still pertains to all your learning and everything, and it's something for you guys to look into, get studying along with your other studying. Whether you're taking Hack the Box or Try Hack Me or whatever, Udemy course or whatever it is you're taking, YouTube channels or whatever. It still pertains to all of that, and your work, and taking care of your kids, and all for all you other people out there that have a life. So, you know, that's why I'm taking a break, and why you guys should have plenty to occupy yourself with until the next video. So with that, I will catch you all on the rebound. See you later.